Hey, what's up out there? It's Dave Duford here at Final Expense Agent Mentor at feagentmentor.com, where I help people and agents like you succeed in selling insurance. And that, in fact, is the purpose for today's sales training. Had an interesting conversation this morning. I have a gentleman named Stephen Burgess. He's out of Florida. And he has this pretty cool, unique system. He actually cold calls seniors. Cold calls. He gets on the phone with a list, doesn't have any leads, and gets appointments to sell annuities, plus other products as well, but primarily what he sells is annuities. And today he's got a $500,000 annuity case that he's feeling pretty good about selling, and that's the kind of annuity deal that leads you over to Hawaii for about a month. So, hey, Steve, what's going on? Thanks for joining. So I'm pretty excited. And one of the conversations we had, or topics we had today in our conversation, was differences in sales styles. He has a gentleman that he works with on occasion, and he will go run appointments with that kind of mutually work together here and there. And he said that this particular guy, while Steve himself is very forthcoming, he's very help and assistance oriented, I guess you could say. This other guy is old school, assertive, aggressive, closer type of personality. They both do well, but they have differing types of presentation styles. And this conversation I thought it was pretty interesting. I wanted to kind of expand on this in a video and explain to you what I think are the three types of insurance sales presentations you can give, and how you can craft one that's best suited to your goals, but also your personality. So I'm a guy that trains agents. I try to tell them the tricks and tips to being successful in insurance sales. But if you really get down to it, a lot of the success in insurance really comes from you, your personality, how well you connect with your prospects. The more that I am in this business, the longer that I realize that it's important to say things a certain way and to have a presentation style. But what really sells you or sells your clients is you. All the other information about word choices and presentation style and what process and procedures to use kind of takes a second or back seat to selling yourself. So I think, and this I found in myself as well, one of the biggest issues I had coming into sales was, as probably a lot of you do too out there, is, oh my gosh, this is sales. I've got to agitate people. I got to pressure them into buying something they don't want. They're going to think I'm a pest. I don't want to be that jerk, right? And you get into this and you kind of apologize for yourself for doing this. But there's a lot of that I think is exacerbated by Hollywood, of course. Just like Hollywood with everything else, it projects an image of the worst type of person, worst type of salesperson, and it's no surprise that it's the same in sales. Think Glengarry Glen Ross or The Boiler Room for great examples. Watch those movies too if you haven't. So my point is okay, that stuff exists. There's certainly agents like this, but the reality is, and it's less sexy, it doesn't sell as many movie tickets either, is that most salespeople who are successful are quite the opposite. They're good people. They're moral people. They actually care about their clients. They want to help them. They want to help them with whatever problems. They want to be a problem solver. And they appreciate relationships and connectivity with them. And so what I realized is sometimes the training that you get or how you perceive the training isn't necessarily what some of the top producers do. And that you can actually craft a sales presentation, and this is what really the big secret and takeaway here is to craft a sales presentation that's based around your personality type, the one that matches you, that you feel comfortable giving. I think one of the biggest outcome that you'll experience in sales of any kind is eventually your sales process should be you. And if that makes sense, I don't know if it does, but there's a performance element to sales, but you also want you to be sincere and genuine. And today, that kind of thing, lack of sincerity, lack of genuineness is lacking. So if you can exhibit that in your sales process, I personally think you'll sell a lot more. You'll connect to those kind of people that really appreciate that more, and a lot of the other details tend to fall into place too. So let's get right to the point. Point here is that I think there's three different types of styles of selling of insurance that you can do, and part of this process is just to briefly explain how they work, brief pros and cons to allow you to decide kind of what process works best and might work best for your personality type. So the first one here is what I call the pump and dump. All right, so I remember working with a guy, an insurance agent. He's like a top level guy with a very big final expense organization. He was sharing about how this guy in Alabama was selling insurance. And his process, he'd come in, do a little small talk, and then he would just simply write 3 prices down and then the coverage amount and ask them which one they want. He did all this without education, without the whole approach to differentiation or any of that stuff. But it was, in a sense, I think, the power of the guy's personality, the authoritative approach that he had, that led him to this style, I guess you could say, which on its surface seems like there's no style. It's just coming in and pitching. Not really even pitching, it's just closing. But the guy did okay. You know, he was in the business for a while, the last I checked, and it worked well for him. And so obviously the pros here is that this approach, you know, it may not be this simplified, but this style of approach where you come in and you're very, you use a lot of assumptive language. You do most of the talking. There's very little education. You're rebuttaling. You're aggressive. Does work. It's old-fashioned, so to say. But for some people, it actually works well. It depends on the market you're in. I think the less sophisticated buyers, that kind of stuff works well with. I think the cons are these days, that's being an old style of selling just doesn't work as well because people now have options. They have access to information. They know that there's always another insurance man around the corner to some extent. And so they're going to be less inclined to take an aggressive angle. Plus, the problem with selling insurance that way is that you can push a lot of people into buying insurance, but not the next day or the next month or two. You know, they can change their mind at any time, and now you've got a big chargeback. Multiply that by 25, 35% of your book of business, you're in a lot of trouble. So I don't like this approach. It's funny to listen to people who make sales that way, and I'm sure they do, but I worry, and I've always worried, which is why I don't like aggressive style sales, is that when you're talking insurance, you are always on the hook for quite a while. It's not going to go anywhere. You've got a chargeback risk. You're at a position where you could be on the hook for a while. So why put yourself in that position? Sure, you may close as a percentage more, but as an agent once said, it's not what you sell, it's what you keep. So second style of insurance sale is called the multi-call presentation. So I was reading a book this week, and let me see if I can have it over here in the stack. I don't. It must be out in the room still. I'm just making sure. It's by John Savage. It's called It's Getting Easier. This is another book that he wrote. It's called The Easy Sale. It's got a couple out there. All of his stuff is good. But in the Easy Sale, or It's Getting Easier, it's just a short book on his experience selling insurance. He sells primarily to business owners and others as well. But his approach is that he doesn't sell on the first call. He doesn't want to. And at first blush, you think, well, what's the point in meeting with a person if you're not going to try to sell them on insurance? I mean, he would go so far as not even to talk about insurance. He would do more of like just get to know you, rapport building, semi-fact finder type of approach, usually at breakfast or maybe some kind of meal. And then they would reconvene at his office, and then he would do his sales presentation there based on the facts that he gathered. On the surface, it's kind of silly that why would he want to break something up that he doesn't necessarily have to, but the way Savage explained it was, you know, he was looking to create a clientele. He was looking to create relationships, and that he knew based off of his experience that if he could get a client of that stature, they would continually buy from him, but they would also give him introductions, give him referrals. And his approach in his mind allowed that process to be facilitated more than, say, a one-call close opportunity or to do a call on them in the office on a cold basis. So the strategy works well. I think it's better for some products than others. I think that the higher up in sophistication with your buyers you get, you're going to have to do multiple calls, especially as you get more sophisticated types of products that may be a little more advanced to sell. A lot of what Savage sold was business continuity plans, buy-sell arrangements, estate planning, that kind of thing. And that's not necessarily a one-call close. So there's a lot of moving parts, which usually would make sense that there would be a lot of moving presentations to secure everything that's necessary. Now, as it relates to retail sales, which I'm sure a lot of you probably sell Medicare, you sell final expense, you sell mortgage protection, or other kind of products in the homes of your clients, I don't think this is necessary. In fact, I think the best thing you can do with a prospect is make them a client. Sell them something on the first call. It can be as simple as a grandchild policy. It can be a $5 or $10 accidental plan. If you can make these people a client, a lot of times that helps people eventually feel more trustworthy of buying more insurance from you. I think John Savage's point is clear. The long-term goal of this business is to create clientele. And again, I've seen this too. You'll continually sell more insurance to these people if you do a good job on the first deal. But it's important to get that first deal. So the point being, maybe a multi-call process doesn't make sense for your particular product if you're selling a standard mass market type of product, but sell something. Make them a clientele. Make them a buying and purchasing person, because they're going to have more needs down the line, and you're going to be the first one in line if you do a good job of selling them what you did, but then you also do a good job of following up and servicing them too. That's really important. So a third and final presentations type in the insurance business is more along the lines of what Steve and I were talking about this morning, kind of like what I teach too. To kind of give it a name, I guess, I would call it the reciprocal value-added presentation. So let me tell you what Steve does, because I think his approach it's almost to the extreme of what I would do. I wouldn't necessarily do all this, but I'm not going to argue with a man that's closing potentially $500,000 annuity deal. So what Steve does is pretty simple. He has created a piece that helps seniors in the particular county he's in get access and information to different types of programs that are available to them. And this isn't some fluff piece. This is a well-designed document that shows seniors how they can save on medical care, how they can get unbiased advocacy for Medicare-related expenses. It shows how seniors can qualify for no-cost legal aid. So if they're in a particular bind and they need help and don't know where to go, this book shows them how to do it. And it shows them other senior services that are available to people generally over 60 years old. And through this process, it's not like it's just about helping. It certainly is on its surface, and if he left without making a sale, he would help a lot of people. It's a value-added approach. But through this process of showing what's in this book, it allows for this process to reciprocate from the prospects. Information about their financial program, information about their Medicare program, or information about their life insurance coverage. And from this process, what Steve's able to do is that he can generate high-quality leads in the form of annuity deals. He generates Medicare supplement deals. He sells life insurance policies through 1035 exchanges, people who have large cash values in their policies. He shows them how he can roll that over to a single pay plan. And so there's all these opportunities. And again, these are coming off the cold call, so it's fantastic. But the reason it works so well, and this is something that Steve explained to me when he was first teaching me how he does this method. I'm coming from an educational approach, but I don't really deviate from the topic at hand in my sales presentation. I'll talk about that in a minute. But his approach and his explanations is really important. You go through each step of this educational process, because if you do this, what happens is you gain all this information, but you also set yourself up as an expert in this particular category of whatever conversation point you're talking about, which bleeds over to being an expert about insurance-related issues. And through that, of giving information first, then these people feel reciprocated as just a natural human law of behavior to give back information, to provide more information. So what happens is that Steve stumbles across all these different types of opportunities that you really probably wouldn't find if you sent off a postcard. It's a different market. These aren't necessarily the type of people that will reply by direct mailer or a Facebook lead. because they don't necessarily know they've got these opportunities. So Steve goes and does these appointments, does these fact finders, and just through this process of giving so much value in exchange, gets a shot at maybe to see if there's opportunities. Sometimes there isn't, but other times there are these very large opportunities that are just real game changers. So now mine is a little bit different, the process I teach agents on, and this is something that, again, comes back to personality like we talked about earlier. I like to stick, when I do a sales presentation, I'm not a generic or generalist type of approach agent. I like an agent to take a product, especially a newer agent, and lead with that product and then build value around that product by asking really good open-ended questions. My personality type, I'm very inquisitive. I am curious to how the world works, why people think the way they do, and I'm interested in people. And I want to help them out, but not deviate too far from the topic at hand, because time is something I hate wasting. And I want to know if this person is potentially a high-quality prospect or not. And so my presentation is built all around the singular product that I'm focusing on. The pros of that approach, of course, is that I can dig really deep psychologically into a prospect, really understand what makes them tick, really connect with their emotions and what really matters about why they sent the information back, what they want to accomplish, and those kind of things. The downside is I may not cross-sell as much as either. Now, I don't think that's a big deal if you're doing enough production. A lot of top producers only do one particular product, but you do miss out on opportunities for the potential for cross-sell opportunities because you're so laser-focused on one particular product, as I always have been. I know I've skipped out on so much insurance sales. Medicare Advantage, for example, probably through the roof I missed out on. But, that doesn't really matter. I wrote a lot of final expense instead. I'm happy enough with that. So, so there's two different ways. I think at the end of the day, what should you do? I would not recommend doing the first one. I just don't think that in the long term it's going to work. It does work, but there's a lot more stress with being aggressive. There's a lot more stress with being a pump and dump kind of guy. That again, a lot of this comes back to your personality type, to how you sell. And if you're running around hard closing people like that, it's that stuff wears on you. And this is a marathon. It's not a sprint in the insurance sales business. So it's important you get your gear straight. And that kind of process, it may work, but there's a lot of downsides to it, not just through production quality of book business, but also personally in your brain. I like to, if you're working a high-end product, that's probably the standard of business for most people who do sell some sort of, more advanced type of product. That makes sense. May or may not be sensible for a retail product. I like run number 3 for the vast majority of the agents that I work with. I think it's important to understand how to sell today and why it's okay to sell today. These people have thought about buying insurance, whatever kind you're selling, up to this point for days, weeks, months, years even. They don't need to think about it anymore, especially if you satisfy all their objections and concerns. Many times the people need someone to recommend a plan or encourage them to buy what's most popular, to show them the way. That's really where you come in, and the power of your personality helps people open their minds and pushes them across that finish line that really they've done all the work doing up to that point. So a value-added approach does that job. And it's lower pressure. It's lower key. Yeah, you may not sell as many, but I truly believe as it matters in the insurance business, you'll keep a lot more. And that's what matters the most, right? You want to keep the business you put on the books. You don't want to be in a position where you lose business because, you overwrite too much coverage, it's too expensive, and you push too hard, and it's not good because of that. So choose the value-added approach just to play it safe. I think in the long run, it's a better deal for everybody, the agent and the client. My name is Dave Duford at Final Expense Agent Mentor. Of course, I cannot end my live stream without pumping and dumping my book. Perhaps you've heard, The Official Guide to Selling Final Expense Insurance. Obviously, it's the best book on selling and presenting final expense that was ever written. I've lost complete count of how many books I've sold. It would fill this room up 5-10 times over, I'm sure. And but all puns aside, it's a good book if you want to get involved in final expense sales. You can find it on Amazon. If you'd like a hard copy version, if you want to go to, you're welcome, Gary. If you want to go to my website, feagentmentor.com, click the link at the top about the book, and then you can buy the book on an ebook format. Also, keep your eyes open. I've got a new book coming out very soon, and it's going to be a good one. It's called The Interviews with Top Producing Insurance Agents. I've taken 15 insurance agents that I have worked with on some capacity or have known of some capacity over the past several years, and am putting together a complete interview on how they became successful and what their story is. This book is perfect if you're a person who is looking towards getting into this business and really want to think bigly, as our commander-in-chief always says, and is really true. And you can see the success that people have, from six-figure personal agents to one particular agency that's literally issue paid $500 million in final expense business since its inception. And I promise you, if you read this book, you're going to thread together a lot of the different ways that people are successful and in this business, and hopefully take away some important lessons on how you can do the same. Plus, as you will find out later, the first month's sales are being donated to a great charitable cause. I'll talk about that a little bit closer to the release date, so stay tuned. Yes, making final expense great again. You got it, Dave. My hat is over there. I'm having a particularly nice hair day, so my bald spot's not showing, so that's why I don't have my hat on. But I'll wear it that day I'll announce the book. Other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we shall see you tomorrow. Peace out.